Good morning. See you at your kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Your kitchen. All right, good. So I guess any updates, wins you like to share first from last week or this weekend?
Well, this morning I changed my routine.
Oh,
I
okay.
went to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Got there for 6:30,
Okay.
and then came home and did my hour's worth of yoga after that. So you'll be quite happy, Shunyun, because I started doing this routine where I do yoga for every day, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I thought, oh, you know what I could do? I could do some intermittent fasting. So I decided to fast on Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays. And by that, I mean, I can
Okay.
drink coffee or water, but I can't eat anything. So that was kind of cool. And then, and this is the bit I thought you might like, I sat and I thought, well, and it was partly because I think it was partly Anti-Fragile that made me think about this. But because he was talking about how we used to, be hunters and gatherers and stuff. And I thought, actually, I don't, whilst I'm fasting, I don't actually need to eat meat on those days.
Oh,
so I've gone sort of like vegan vegetarian on those days. I mean, I eat meat on the other days, but it's interesting how I don't actually feel that I need to eat meat on those other days. But I sat yesterday, so that's kind of like all of that is a win. Last week for Income Sec, I just did a lot of focus on click funnels for Income Sec, and I overcame a lot of the hang-ups that were stopping me from moving forward with that. Which was really interesting because, in that book about self-sabotage, we the things that we do, like procrastinate, or why do we procrastinate? Why do we put things off? And fundamentally, it's fear of failure. For me personally, anyway, that's a conclusion that I've come to. So I was thinking, what am I fearing failure of? And I thought, well, am I fearing failure of getting more customers? Am I fearing failure of not being able to talk to new potential customers? Am I fearing failure of trying to do something and it not working? And I thought, and here's the thing, from an entrepreneur's point of view, the more you fail, the more likely you're going to succeed, right? Because failure is just a point of learning, right? So it's like, why are you worried about it? So, and this is the simplest thing, right? This is why it's so frustrating. So I thought, well, I've paid up for this service and it has a support function. So why didn't I just ask the support people and get over the fact that I don't know what I'm doing, and get over the fact that they might be sitting there thinking, gosh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Well, of course I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done it before. So why shouldn't I sit there and, stop it, Michael? So I went to the support team and I went, how do you do this? Oh, you've got to do this, this, and this, and this. All right, how do you do this? Oh, you got to go, oh, right, okay. And so I spent like 3 days going to and fro with them, and just working out why things weren't working. And there were moments where I made something work, a simple click of the button, and I went, yeah. So it's really interesting.
nice.
So I got that so I've got it to a point where I believe it's 75% done. I've got one little bit of tweaking to do, and then I'm on to the next stage, which is paying for advertising. And I've got I've been approached by another company, and I might actually engage with them as well, to do exactly that. So, but I don't know. I have to do a little bit of analysis now for how to spend my money paying for advertising and what will it cost, and then do a cost benefit analysis in that aspect.
Okay. Okay.
So
Wow,
all of that.
fantastic.
And then Sunday, I spent the time. I got a new. I read Outlive. So on Saturday, I went out and I met up with a mate, a property person, and I realised whilst I was waiting, I took a book with me, and it's Super Thinking. Super Thinking is a really, really good book. It's mental models that people, but generally people learn within MIT for all sorts of things, and then other kind of that kind of ilk kind of training. On one of the points, which is interesting because it refers back to something I was saying a couple of weeks ago, is focusing on one thing, and how I can't remember the name of the guy, but the guy at PayPal sat there and said,
Peter Thiel.
Yeah, there you go.
Peter Thiel? Yeah.
Yeah. So he said, I only want you to focus on one thing. If you come and start talking to me about something other than your one thing, I'm not interested. And people really rebelled against this because they felt, well, I can multitask. Why can't I do more than one thing? But what it does is it actually hones down the concentration, which is what, the whole point about buffer and focus days is that they're there to bring about that kind of thing. And then so then I went home and I thought, that's really good. So I've got I've got about 4 books on the go again, right? So, well, rather than just read lots of books, why not try and focus my time on them? So I spent yesterday reading one book, which was Outlive. And that was really, really interesting. So,
Wow, excellent. Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. I'm finding I'm doing something similar to what you're doing in a sense. So also concentrating more. So well, I guess that's a feedback, but congrats, on the funnel thing. I know it's taking time, but it seems like you're climbing the slope towards better control and mastery, right? I think that's what I'm seeing. So really congrats on that. For me, yesterday we went to a hike with our son's classmates, the whole class. That was a fantastic, a lot of the parents are challenged because they are not used to that kind of exercise, but fine with me, fine with us. And then last week, one of the big thing I think was cleaning up my schedule. Okay, actually tighten up, putting things more larger space during the day. So that goes to, and that's actually a result directly from, I think, Ben's challenge, our rapid transformation challenge, where he's basically also, the same message, go dive deeper. So one of the challenge for this week actually is about, can we really focus on just,
focus on
one focus, right, one thing as well. Yeah. So I kind of did that, decided that it would be the house rebuild planning. Okay, because I list out a few things, funnels included, JCF system rebuild included. But then I realized, this is the one thing I'm most unfamiliar with. I have the least amount of knowledge experience about. And it would be just completely new for me. So I would be the most challenged if I were to actually set a goal, an impossible goal, to come in with a reconstruction plan, within 1 week. So this is actually what I just did today. It's near the end of my today. Did some really, several hours of survey, and also, this book here. This is our city planning proposal done by the architect firm. I'm probably 4/5 done, Because
What, for your project?
well, because we were in discussion with a developer, that was also the landlord of the nearby, the land lots. So this was actually, and I just did a survey. They actually hire a really top architecture firm in Taiwan to do the planning. So I'm just kind of checking over what I never, I never look at this, before, like just spend some time go over it and also did some survey. And I have to say that I actually felt pretty bad right before this call. I would say because state of gap, because it just seems like really insurmountable level of details and difficulties and know-hows that's out there, and it's a lot of things regarding.
But that's not gap though, Shinyan.
Well, I guess gap is I haven't been able to come up with, I guess, a proposal. Okay, so I still haven't the idea yet to how to.
But that's not gap.
Okay.
It's not gap, is it? Just because it's not what you want doesn't make it a gap.
Okay. Well, all right. Yeah. Well, anyway, I am feeling frustrated and defeated. That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, okay, but again,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
not gap.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's a game. Okay. So,
Exactly, because I mean, the thing is, you've tried something,
right.
and you haven't succeeded to the point that you thought you could do.
No.
That's cool, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened. That's what happened. That's what's happening. That's what's happening right now. But I'm trying to reframe this from the point of view of gain. Well, from the gain part, I did increase, I think, quite a lot of knowledge about construction and, in fact, alternative about the materials of cob. I don't know if you've heard of that, cob. Okay, it's basically made of clay and natural stuff.
Oh, cob. Oh, right. Okay, fine. Yeah, cob. Yeah.
Right. The cob and cob building. I actually did some quite extensive survey on cob buildings. Okay, and also discovered
cob building very popular in the medieval period.
Oh, really? Okay. They are actually
still very popular in villages in Africa.
Yes, and it's very natural. And I learned that it's actually quite not disaster resistant as well. Earthquake, hurricane, and it's also possible to make a multi-story. Maybe they have like 7-8 story height of cob building. So so that's
not structurally.
Structurally.
Yeah, well, you can't layer 7 or 8 stories of cob on top of each other. You have to have something there to support it.
Right, maybe. I don't know exactly how they, but there are cob-based, like building that are 7-8 or stories high.
Yeah, North Africa, medieval North Africa. There's whole cities built there.
Really?
But they're not 7 or 8 stories.
Oh, okay, all right. So anyway, so and also Earth Shape, this guy Michael, he has done some amazing work about just building buildings out from garbage, literally. So I was kind of learning all these alternative, because I was trying to find ways that's cheap and fast to build eco building. Okay, that was my intent of the survey. What are the best techniques now that's out there? The best techniques know-how about building an eco building that's fast and cheap. Okay, so because I know that through the traditional route, it's probably going to be of a certain level of complexity and duration of time. So I was trying to see if something can be hacked. Okay, so that was the kind of the intention. But right now I think it's a lot of information. I haven't get I guess an idea yet. So I guess hence the frustration. But it's I guess it's but I guess the game part is that the win is that this is really a big and bold move on my part. of entering, going to, and attempting to do something, very unfamiliar and impossible. So yeah, I guess that's that's the. All right. Okay, so for I guess anything for today you'd like to discuss?
I just
Oh, and
so much to say about your property.
oh,
Yeah.
so oh yeah, one more win. Sorry, I forgot to mention was did some survey about DeFi stuff and protocol and try to actually get my hands to it. And yeah, I think there are valid ways. Right now we're out of position, okay, due to the indicators. But I think probably also good that we can if we can get some better ideas about how DeFi could play into that as both, I guess, investment vehicle or maybe as contract. So also be a bit of survey on that. Okay, so sorry, I was breaking up. So you were saying, yeah, so
yeah, I was just saying about how there's so much to say about.
okay.
Sorry, I'm just keeping my face still while I log into Binance.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's good. I've just realized that it's gone up again. I'm happily making money with this. So
Okay. Okay.
dollar cost averaging.
Okay, yes, yes. All right.
Yeah, with your property project, there's so much to say about that. I think,
Okay.
and from a couple of weeks ago even, or maybe last week.
Right.
But you said that what's his name? The building guy said he wasn't interested in working with.
Dr. Yang. Dr. Yang.
Yeah.
Well,
Wasn't he?
she's I would say that I think it has to go to a certain threshold, right? Because he's also handled some really big projects in terms of consulting on his own thing at the moment. So
Yeah. So my point was that
right.
you said he wasn't interested in working with you on this project unless it was the whole project, and that meant that you would have to be in partnership with the other developers.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So apart from the fact that I think you've got a challenge of becoming a partner with the other developers anyway in its own right, the other thing I would sit there and go, well, you don't, just because this guy says you don't need him to be your mentor to do the project is one thing. And so you don't have to change the way, you don't have to go for instead of doing a $5 million project, you've now got to do a $50 or $100 million project just so you can get this guy's advice. And I think the other thing there is what's in it for him. Well, I think he'll want you to do the $50 or $100 million project because he's going to take a percentage. So he would rather have a percentage of 50 or 100 million than a percentage of 5. So he's only going to be interested in working with you when it's going to make him money, which is a valid point, but that doesn't necessarily help you. And I think the other thing, and I'm sorry, Shinyan, I kind of feel that a lot of the time I'm quite negative to your ideas, and I don't mean it that I'm being negative. I'm just
You're being practical. You're being practical.
I'm just concerned because you have some really fantastic ideas, but they're all over the place. And I think you said to me, another thing you said to me was, I'm successful. The thing I've been most successful with is property.
Mhm.
And I went, oh, okay. And then you qualified that. You said, well, what that means is I've not lost any money.
Right.
They're not the same thing.
Well, earn profit. I mean, there's actually profit made with the property so far.
Okay.
So yeah.
Which property is this?
Well, it's well, I guess mostly family and for both rental income and also appreciation part.
Okay.
But
So
yeah,
appreciation is going to happen. So you kind of
right,
forget about that.
right,
That's going to happen. Do
right.
you have a portfolio or do you just own one house?
Uh, well, right now under my name, I think there's a couple of houses, okay, under my name legally.
And have you bought them specifically because you wanted to build a portfolio of rental properties?
No. That wasn't the intention. No.
So they're just accidental acquisitions, or you bought them because you wanted a house to live in and now you're not living in it for whatever reason and you rented it out.
Well, it was like family, family property, family assets and management of those.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
My point here is there's a difference between, we call it in the UK, you call them accidental landlords. You don't necessarily want to become a landlord, but you become a landlord because of circumstance.
I see. Okay.
Right. And it's very different than actually putting together a plan and a strategy and becoming a landlord because you want to be a landlord. You want to own property. You want to build a portfolio. You want to build a house or whatever. And there's a big difference between somebody who builds because they want to develop and somebody who builds because they want to build a house for their family.
Right.
There are different
right.
factors that come into play.
Right.
And so I'm just concerned because not only are you see your project, especially how you want to fund it, your project is impacting on the two uncles and your dad. Sorry, did you say there are 4 people involved?
Well, 2 uncles, my dad, myself, mostly 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the family aspect for the family. Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as and then that has an implication because each one of your uncles have got family and it's gonna have an impact on them and their family and what their children and all the rest of it and kind of da-di-da-di-da. So I'm assuming that if your dad's got you and you're 40 odd years old, then your uncles are going to have similar sort of like family commitments, give or take 5-10 years, depending on distribution of ages. So all of that, then your ideas are going to have an impact on not just you, but they're going to have,
yes.
And likewise, your dad's share of the family property will have an impact ultimately on your brother, because you and your brother are going to be beneficiaries of your mum and dad's estate.
That's right.
So to go into a massive project when you've not done it before is a really big risk. It's not an impossible task. It's just you have to think about the thing is you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
So where am I going with all of this? I sat and I thought, why do you want to build like a big complex with shops and commercials and housing, and then why do you want to do that? Because what that does is that you're saying you've got a plot of land, and if you build this complex on it, it's going to cost X amount of money, the land's going to cost Y amount of money, and the value at the end of it is going to be Z, but Z equals X plus Y. So there's no profit in it. So you're not actually going to make any money out of it. So why do it?
Okay.
And don't
that's the initial estimate. The point then is to make it into a profitable proposal or design. I mean that's the whole point of the of this stage, right? I mean a rough estimate tells me that borrowing from asset value appreciation in the future. Let's not count on that. Just, when it's done, then what's the estimated? Right now, it's, roughly the same. So there's a space. If, for example, the cost can be lower, the value can go up, then that makes it into a more profitable proposal.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the current task and challenge we're facing. So I understand. I guess what I'm trying to say, I understand your point, right? Makes sense. But that's also what the current effort is about.
I think, you so when I spent a bunch of money on me and Olga going and getting training about how to become landlords, you pay for education and you get told something by somebody who's done it before, in the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you get told by somebody who's never done it before, they've just read a book. Okay. Right. And so that's information, and that is just knowledge. The most beneficial element that you can have is experience. Mm-hmm. And there's a when you marry knowledge and experience together, then you can start to build wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so my point there is that your knowledge is only as good as the person who's spoken to you and told you what to do.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
So your experience comes from you actually going through. So you've got an experience of reading a planning guide for the city now.
Right.
You've got experience now about what your property mentor may or may not be interested in dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think, once you've gone, so the next stage you would have to get experience in is it paying for an architect to build a set of plans.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Then going to planning in the city and getting those plans agreed and having to negotiate with the city regarding how you're going to do it. Then you've got the negotiation and the fees that are going to you're going to incur, because whilst you're building, you're going to have to set up and erect, a perimeter that prevents, the health and safety, so that you protect the people on the street, and, signing off on the various different regulations, building regs and so on.
Right. That's right. The construction part, right?
All of that stuff multiplies up, and ultimately you'll be responsible.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, who, not how, you can't take away the fact that you will be the who that is responsible. And so when you bring in a who to lay the bricks, you've got to be certain that bricklayer is knowledgeable enough to not mix up the wrong amount of cement.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a property show in the UK called Grand Designs, right? So normal people, they have an idea, I'm going to turn this small, tiny plot, I'm going to make it this really wonderful house, and they go off and they do it and they film it and everything's great. The last one that I watched just a couple of weeks ago, the family dug down into the ground and built like a basement area. And then they had the contractor, the prime contractor, concrete it all out. And then they built up and they built up and they built up. What they found was that the prime contractor didn't mix the cement, that whoever provided the concrete for the basement didn't provide the right mixture of cement and concrete. So there was water coming in. Now, they'd already built the house on top.
Wow. Okay.
So how do they fix it? Well, now they're in a big legal battle, because the prime contractor and the people that supplied the cement and all the rest of it. But the point being then is that that's just one family building one little house in London. How do you know that? And then the other thing then is how do you hit legally a company that will look at you as being just a small guy.
Right, right.
Now, I'm saying all of this not to scare you, but what I'm trying to illustrate is that experience gives you the insight to know whether or not somebody's actually able to be a who for you.
Right, right.
And I sat there and I thought, you know, you want to, is the objective, so one of the objectives might be you could build a smaller dwelling, right?
Okay.
On that plot of land.
Right.
If you were to build a smaller dwelling on that plot of land, the land's still going to cost 4 million. But if you were to build, I don't know, a 5-6 bedroom house, and I'm just making this up, what would that be worth in that area? Now, if a 5-6 bedroom house in that area, or for argument's sake, 2 or 3 houses in that area, right, was worth, I don't know, I don't know, 10 million, right? Using normal construction methods, you could then build them £1,500 per square meter. So let's say it's 200,000 each. So 600,000. So for £1 million, you could build 3 houses, right? Okay. Plus your 4 million for the land. So you're now looking at 5 million, and you've got 3 houses. Now, if those 3 houses are all worth 2 or 3 million each, right? Or, you know, then you've now got, you know, 6, 7, 8 million. I'm making these numbers up, right? Just to illustrate a point. But I think what it would do then is if at the end of it, you're able to refinance the entire operation, and you're able to then own all the land and all the property, and the finances is paid, right, for everything, right, and you're making money on the not on the mortgage, on the rental of those 3 properties, right, then you have ownership of everything, and you've got experience on something which is a much smaller project. Right. But you own it out. Now you can sit there and give yourself a timeline to saying, right, well, okay, that's great, I've now got that. If I give it a 5 to 10 year time frame, during that time period, property will increase. During that time period, green build abilities will increase, and then the cost will decrease. So if you give yourself a 10-year time frame, which for property is nothing, right, it's likely that, you know, the plot will have doubled in value. You know, the actual buildings on there will have doubled in value. You'll have you could then actually, you'll have got your experience in terms of how to build, right? And you could do one of 2 things. You could either sell it for double what it's cost you, or have the money to pay for a planning and stuff, so that you can turn it into this deluxe kind of, you know, commercial units on the bottom, and then, you know, totally green building with 6 floors and, you know, 30 odd units, because you've actually got the experience to do that. And what's more, you'll have a bunch of money that's generated from all of that to pay for it all. Okay. So I guess all I wanted to illustrate to you is that, and let's be honest, for you to do that, even though it's small, it's still way beyond anything that you've ever done. Sure. So it's, and I guess what I'm illustrating is that you know, you could look at a much smaller goal, much smaller goal to then be achievable, that you can actually do within a given time period, that will actually pay off everything, be profitable, and yet still give you the grounding, the foundation, and the ability and the knowledge and the experience to then sit there and go on and do the really, really big project at a later time in the future without having to worry about your uncles or your father or anybody else, because you'll have paid them all off anyway.
Okay, I see.
But again, I'm just hypothesizing here. I'm not saying that you should do that. It's just another way of thinking. I think with all of these things, one of the first things that they taught us is when you walk into a house in the UK, don't sit there and look at the house and go, well, I'm going to turn this into an HMO. I'm going to Airbnb this. I'm going to turn it into a buy to let. Walk into the house and go, right, what needs to be done just to get it to stage A? What could I do to it? Go home, think about it. Give yourself at least one or two different options. Do you have an exit plan? I can buy this house, option 1, and I can just rent it out to a family. I can buy this house, option 2, refurb it, split it into flats, sell each flat, own the ground rent. I could buy this, I could split it into rentable rooms, HMO. I could buy this flat, turn it into an Airbnb. So the point is, there are any number of different solutions that you could deliver, and it's just one property with one footprint. But you don't go into the deal going, I'm going to do this with this property, because you don't know. You haven't done the numbers. What's the one that works? So I think saying, well, I'm going to have this big project, it sounds really fantastic. But is that really what you want? What would best work? Is that the best plan for the for that plot of land and you and your family today? So but all of those things are still massive projects.
Right.
You're not just because it's not, just because you're not actually looking at the horizon as being the end destination and that's where you want to go, and you're looking at something between, halfway between the horizon and here, doesn't mean it's any less of a project.
No. It's still, and it could quite a lot of effort.
You're still going to have to learn an awful lot. But I don't know.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. I do appreciate it. I mean, for the feedback, really. And actually, the discussions in the past, last couple of weeks, I think has helped quite a lot in terms of my own thinking, and also in terms of the practicality, like cost estimation. A lot of the question, I try to answer them, and I actually, I think, got the whole thing into bigger sphere. I think I just have to say that right now, I guess I'm in a pretty unusual, I guess, situation or state, in that I am attempting things I've never done before, and actually I am also, again, another thing is trying to practice the principles I'm learning, from them in particular, about how to apply certain things to the actual projects, the work I'm doing. And I think, frankly, there is a much easier way about this, which is just sell it for cash, which is, by the way, one of the options Dr. Yang talked about as well. He also said that's a very valid, feasible option, right? Just sell it for cash. And we don't have to worry about all this, construction stuff, which, by the way, could add to complexity and added risk, right? And, I understand the point. I think there's, definitely different considerations are valid. Okay, I guess, okay, I don't want to, take too much of this, our discussion on this, but I guess I am, honestly speaking, okay, I have to say that I am really trying to see how far, you know, my capacities can go. Okay, in a sense. And also to see, you know, if some of these, I guess, ideas, principles about 10x, about impossible goals, they actually could manifest, right, in my personal life. So I guess that's what I'm, and it is scary, you know, I have to admit that. For example, like, I actually also surveyed people who are doing eco buildings in Taiwan, okay, who have done actual buildings. And, you know, so there's the decision actually between doing a more conventional concrete kind of construction versus actually doing really and sort of an eco building design, right? For the same base, right? And that could be completely different projects with different kinds of end goals and also intention and also results, right? And I think part of the thing is, you know, for me, then like, do I want to go that far? If I, or, you know, there are some pretty amazing, but also, I guess, unconventional ways of building buildings that I, you know, just learned today. So this is also something I, you know, probably will want to sit and think. But yeah, for example, I can share maybe one thing I realized today, which is one of the reasons why I started this thing even is because I know that my 20-year future self will be doing eco villages, okay, and around the world, and 1,000 of them. You know, like I know that very clear as a future self for my future self. And there's personal reason behind that, okay, and different, you know. And so for me, it's, you know, the reason why I decided to actually jump into this was I see this as a first step towards that, right? Now, granted, what you said are also valid. So I think it's really about how big of a step do I want to take at this stage, right? Because what I survey, this just even today, is that there are already people doing what I want to do, I think, in the world. Okay. I think even more extreme versions of that. For example, I don't know if it's extreme, but this guy, Michael, he's you know, he's an architect by training. He's done it in the last 40, 50 years. And he's building I think eco buildings around the world out from garbages. Okay, there's even a documentary, The Garbage Warrior, I think that's what it's called. He even has a documentary on that. So
He's been doing it for how long?
He's been doing it for 40, 50 years, actually. And
Okay.
he even has gone through legal battles because he's an American and his projects were shut down by the government because it was not meeting building, you know, codes for whatever. Yeah. So he even went as far.
Junyun,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. My routine today is all messed up, so I really need to do a comfort break.
Okay. You want?
Can I
You
just?
need to
I'll
do a
come
what?
right back.
Oh,
I'll come
okay.
right back because I've got something else to say to you as well.
Okay.
So,
All right. All right.
just bear with me, sir.
Okay. Sure. 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 All right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's the problem with changing your routines, especially when it's exercise, because you have to drink more water when you're exercising. So anyway.
Right.
You know, look, here's the other thing, right? So, you could take the money, right? So if you sell, and each one of you have to sell it so that each one of you, after you pay tax, gets $1 million. Because there's no point selling it for 4 and then having to pay whatever the percentage tax is, right? And then you split that up and you've got sub $1 million. So you end up with $1 million. You're a millionaire. That's not a small thing. Now, don't go and put that all in crypto because
okay. For obvious reason, yeah.
Yeah. But what could you do with $1 million? You could go and buy a small plot of land somewhere and build. You could buy a plot of land for 100,000 and build an eco house for 100,000. So you spend $250,000 and you build yourself a first eco home. You sell it, even if you break even, it doesn't matter because it's an experiment.
To learn, right? Yeah.
Yeah. You learn something, right? Okay, you've made your money back. Go on to the next one. Do it again. You've now got your own, you can go and buy a plot of land in, I don't know, somewhere exotic, more exotic than Taiwan.
And then start a venture off that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you're basically, that gives you $1 million to invest. And if that's what you want to do in the next 20 years, then use the money for that.
Wow, that's an interesting proposition.
That's what I would do.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not doing. I mean, like if your real aim, right, is to build eco villages around the world, then why are you wasting time and effort thinking about building something which is not an eco village in the middle of a city in Taiwan?
Now that's all right. That convinced me. That's a convincing argument for me. I fully agree. There's probably a much steeper uphill battle in terms of technology, actual various things, legality, permits, right? If I were to build an eco building in the center of a busy city, right next to Honghai, Foxconn's headquarters.
They're not going to give you permission to build it out of, reclaimed car tires, mud, and I don't know what else. Shit that people throw away.
That's a good point. Yeah, the guy's called Michael Reynard. Yeah. He's built houses out front garbage.
and like here's the thing, doing something out in the middle of the desert in America is one thing,
right?
And a village, I mean, it depends what's the purpose of the village. Villages grow up because
self-sustaining. Yeah.
Well, but villages grow up because people want to live there.
Exactly.
And because there's a reason.
Right.
They're fishermen, they're traders.
Right.
The best that you can hope for, I would imagine, is probably some people who are already into the idea of going there for holidays.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But again, that's another thing. You could take that million and be and trickle 50, 60, $100,000 into JCF if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be that. You could, there's any number of different things that you could do with that.
Mm-hmm.
A million's a lot. You could buy a property anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And rent it out.
Mm-hmm.
You can give me 100,000. I'll buy some properties in the UK and I'll pay you a percentage back.
Right.
Yeah, and then I'd even go 50-50 with you and do a JV.
Okay.
So you get 50% of the profit and 50% of the value. But
I see. I see your point. Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Yeah. That's a great feedback, actually. Yeah.
I mean, and also you could leverage it with your dad if you wanted to,
mm-hmm.
because you could sit there and say to your dad, look, Dad, what are you going to do with the $1 million? I don't know, son. What do you suggest? Well, look. And don't give him any kooky ideas about, let's put it all into Solaris. Right?
Okay.
Never, ever, ever put all your investment into one area.
Okay. I see. Right. That's true.
So the other thing then is my look. I'm not doing Ben's course, obviously. AMP Gold is barely functioning, really, to be honest with you, as an attendee.
Right.
The pod group that I'm involved with is at best a kind of it's what's the right word? It's a therapy group for some people.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's not actually of any benefit. But I think an idea of, so if you look at what Ben has actually done and what's achieved, right? So he started, his goals were, so he wanted to be an author. So to get a book deal, he knew that he needed a certain level of recognition in terms of pods and not pods, in terms of posts and stuff. So he broke it down into the smaller parts, right? And then built them up. And then as you ascend, like your level of competency based upon your on your, I don't know, experience, then you'll have the wisdom to understand what's 10x and what's achievable and what's not. And I think, to start I mean, who built the pyramids, right? It wasn't some schmuck in a bazaar in Cairo. It was the pharaoh. He'd already achieved a certain level of capacity before he had the idea of, I want to be buried in this mountain of stone.
Okay.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, our impossible goals aren't necessarily, don't think to the most logical thing of the impossible goal is the moon. Right. Well, okay, to get to the moon, you've got to overcome a series of challenges first. You've got to build a rocket first, which is actually going to get you there.
Right. Sure.
You've got to think about the life support system, or doing that again is, and I'm not, I guess my point is that we have to do things proportionally in terms of, and that's, that's a 10x. So if you want to take something that you've got a 25% share of, and turn that into something which is worth, double its value, for argument's sake, and take 2 years out of your life, because it will be 2 years out of your life, doing that, at least, that's not even 10xing, is it? I suppose, because you're not, you're at the end value is 7, it's only 7xing. But in terms of financial, but in terms of better, it certainly would be. Okay. But it would be much more than that. And I think impossible, having an impossible task that's the 25, 30-year term kind of goal.
Right.
Which you can work towards. And all of this time hacking thing where you can, you make your standard, you make your goals your standards, and then you level up your floor, and you raise your floor, and then you move forward. Yeah, that's right. It does happen. But if you want things to work sustainably, consistently over a long period of time, then it's, you have to work on very incremental growth rates. And every now and then you get a massive spurt, and you suddenly go, well, okay, that spurred me forwards. But it's like somebody who's got $1 million can make a lot more money compounding than somebody who's got $10,000.
Okay.
Right, because they've already got the massive capital.
That's right.
So you might argue you could take your $1 million and invest it in 10 different projects, and it will generate you 100,000 at least, maybe 150, maybe 200,000 in a year. What could you do with that 200,000? If you took your $1 million and your dad's $1 million, and you put your 2 million together, and you can generate 25 to 30% growth per year, right? So that's 300,000. Would you be able to live on $150,000 a year, Shunyun? I mean, I don't know if that's an acceptable amount of money in Taiwan or not.
That's very acceptable. I mean, that's
right. So if you can live on $150,000 a year, and your mum and dad are really happy because they've now got, you're managing them and giving them, a huge amount of money, happy days, right? Because, you're ultimately the end beneficiary, you and your brother. You're then actually been able to, set aside a certain amount of money into a trust that will, I mean, I don't know your brother's exact condition or how capable he is of living on his own, but if for instance, he would require some form of care for the rest of his life, then you can actually build a trust which will pay for his care for the rest of his life.
Right. That's right.
Well, why wouldn't you do that? Right? Because that's taking care of family, right? Family first.
Okay.
You've taken care of your parents financially, you've taken care of your brother financially, you're taking care of yourself financially.
Right.
Once you've got that platform, then you're in a position, is that not 10x? Is that not an impossible goal? Ultimately, what do we all want to do? Why do we all want to earn money? I don't want to earn money so I can buy a new car, I can buy a bigger house. Well, yeah, I mean, those are byproducts, but actually I want to earn money so that my family's safe for the rest of their lives. I want to build legacy.
Right. Okay.
Right?
You're right. That is a 10x direction, to be sure. And also, I mean, that's definitely a 10x direction. And also, I think it relates to something actually Ben also mentioned about, actually not him, but Nassim from Anti-Fragile, that he has a dumbbell approach to his investment portfolio, which is, there's like a big chunk of his investment is in highly reliable, vehicles with very, solid ROI. And because he has that base, he can spend a portion of his assets into something highly, highly uncertain or risky. And he's able to do that because he has a very strong base. That's I think that relates, that relates
Okay,
well
so
to your feedback.
So you could right, take your 2 million, invest it, make 30%. So you're going to personally get 150, right? If you can survive on, I don't know, 70,000, I don't know if that's achievable or not. I've no idea. But then you could take the remaining 80,000 and you could invest that in whatever you wanted in terms of la cuckoo, right? You could do as risky as you want. At the moment, you could buy with that 80 grand, you could buy 1 Bitcoin every year.
Okay, right.
Current values as they are.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
You could even argue that, well, actually, if I had 2 million, I could buy 2 Bitcoin or 3 or 4 Bitcoin, and then just sit there and let them and sit. You could, there's so much you could do with that.
I see. So I guess you're also saying that it allows the flexibility and I guess choice, right? Options in terms of what's possible, right? Okay.
Yeah, but don't go and invest it in something which is shit.
Okay. I think we have learned enough, or maybe not enough. All right. So Mike, really appreciate it. All right. So I think that's definitely some thinking there. By the way, it's not going to be that much, as the amount won't be as much as you mentioned, but it's I understand the concept. Yeah. I mean it's probably
Well, you mean do you not get an equal share of the 4 million?
No. It's, I mean, the 4 million, I think it's the estimated. That's the, it's the estimated, but we do have also debts, liabilities that we have to pay off for. So probably not, but I mean, roughly, there will be assets for sure. I mean, if
Oh, look,
so, it's for cash.
I mean, I don't know what your debts are. I don't know what your tax issues are,
Right,
but
right.
you know,
I
if
get the
if
idea. Yeah.
if your tax liability and your debts equal 1 million, then you say to them, look, okay, we are prepared to sell, we're ready to go. It's got to be 550. That's way too much. No, we're not going to do that. Okay, so where are we at? Well, we're at 350. Okay, that's not going to happen. So let's find a way of working this out. Why are you unable to do at 550? And then just, have you read Never Split the Difference?
Oh, not yet. That's a good, all right. I've heard it. Okay.
Right. But that's your negotiation style right there.
All right. Okay. All right.
So go through that and
Okay.
and then figure out how you would structure
Hmm.
your argument for that, so that you end up with $1 million in your pocket each at the end of it. That's all you got to do.
Right.
If that's your goal, right? I want $1 million in my pocket, in my bank account.
Right.
What do I need to achieve to make that real? So
Okay.
because whatever the liabilities are that you have,
Part of that might be to actually still create a, you know, a building plan like this, you know, but just for our own land, so that we can negotiate better.
Oh, this is true.
You know,
And that's very
because
true.
you know, because right now we're negotiating with houses, but if we have something like this on our own, we're negotiating an estate against, you know, what they are asking for, which would be much more valuable, actually.
Yeah, and it depends on how much that's going to cost you. So if that's going to cost you $10,000,
exactly. Yeah. So obviously we want to get it as cheap as, you know, as fast as possible, but something that still makes sense, right? Something that passes out, you know, that looks nice. So yeah, but thanks. I think that's just yeah, I think that is a more I think a better thinking. Yeah.
I've just made you a millionaire, Shunyun.
Yes, you might well have. A lot of time it's true. I mean, it's really just changing thinking, right? Mindset and how you approach things. So if we actually set up with the end goal to have, you know, my dad and I each end up with $1 million in our bank, right? Through this deal, if that's the goal, then question becomes, how can we achieve that, right? And I think there are different pathways towards that. But yeah, but thanks. I think that would be a good goal, actually. Also, still provides the possibility to move towards that called building house, like you said, maybe a cheaper land, a more remote rural area, and can still do the thing, right?
I think that's it. You know, then if you can work out, right, what the cost of land is somewhere cheaper. Right, and if you can, and what the cost, you could buy the land with some of the interest that you're going to earn over the course of 1 year.
Exactly.
So in 1 year's time from the deal,
right,
you've invested your $1 million or your 2 million, and in a year's time you're gonna you're gonna buy a piece of land. The following year, and during that 12 months, you'll get your building regulations and your planning consent. Right. The following year, you'll have enough money to pay for the builders to go in there and build it.
Right, exactly. And actually make this a more sustainable project, right? That we actually have a base financing mechanism and whatever else we want to do with it. Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about it. And then you've got a blueprint of how it works. You've got experience, you'll have knowledge, experience, and then you can leverage wisdom. And then you can go out to the market and go, this is what we've already done, guys. We're scaling up. Who wants to be a part of this really fantastic project?
And then it will be much more convincing and also easier, right? And also more likely to find the other hoops who will be joining in, right?
My goodness. What a piece of advice.
I can see that you're very proud of yourself.
I haven't charged you any money for that as well, have I?
Well, you will ultimately benefit from this, you know, as I'm pretty sure this will have something to do with JCF down the road. So I
still
mean,
not a
put it another
millionaire,
way, we got JCF, you know, a potential client in Echo House building or Echo House crowdfunding in the future, right? So yeah, that's good. Thanks. Wow. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed and also grateful. Okay, for your feedback and I think yeah, it is bringing. I mean, more concrete, but also I think a much better plan, you know, than where we started when we started this conversation a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So
I think another thing is like, if you feel, I mean, it's one thing being excited about the challenge, right? And knowing that you're going to go out there and do something different. But I also think one has to do it in a way that's manageable.
right.
And the challenge, I don't think the challenge should be one that's just full of so much uncertainty. And I think that if you can bring about greater levels of certainty, then the risk factor of the challenge is far more manageable.
Right.
But again,
that's true. It's also, I think, in line with flow. Flow requires that you are taking challenge, but it's not like too out of your current ability. It has to be like some levels above that, but you know, not too challenging. Otherwise, it wouldn't be, you know, doable, or you wouldn't have the motivation to actually move ahead. So yeah.
well, there you go. Good.
Great. All right, thanks. All right. So anything else you'd like to discuss? I think or okay.
I've got a bunch of stuff I need to do, really. So
okay. All right. Thanks. All
I'll
right.
get on with that. And we'll have to now. Yeah, we'll have to pick up on JCF at some point, maybe on Thursday.
Right. Okay. All right. So yeah, by the way, just I think what are the so in terms of development, we're still looking at using the Rapid tool, Booty Base, to do some of the coding right now. You know, I guess in terms of the wealth upgrade. Yeah, and also Debo is still working also on the automation of the investment strategy. Yeah. So those are pieces that are still moving. That yeah, I think the yeah, right now I think what I would like to do is to execute your plan and quickly move this into the next stage. I think that might be something that's you know, much more exciting. Yeah. Okay. All right. So thanks, Mike, and to wish you all the best with your stuff, and let's talk on Thursday then. All right.
All right, buddy.
Okay. All right. Take care. Yeah. Take care.
Have fun.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Yeah. Bye.